Nahid, why don't you share with us what you've learned in the past 22 years since you became a coach?
When we're coaches, we don't have an agenda with our clients. We create a space for our clients, and everything is in honor of their agenda and what it is that they want to accomplish. So what caught me off guard is here I'm meeting someone for the first time, and I'm going to start off a relationship in kind of what I would call a manipulative way, which is I have an agenda. I want you to be my client. And even if I started out very authentically getting to know somebody, seeing if there's a connection, at whatever point I start my sales process, an agenda is implied. And that agenda is that I'm facilitating them to work with me. And the goal of every question that I ask is to get them to agree to work with me. And when I realized that, I realized I can't have a traditional sales process. I can't use any traditional sales techniques, because if I'm going to be authentic in my relationships with my clients, I have to start off in integrity. I have to start off in a relationship where I have no agenda.
I'm just curious, when you have an agenda, and how do you think you're showing up to your client?
As soon as I start wanting something from our relationship for me, you're going to start feeling a little manipulated. I've had 5 or 6 coaches over my lifespan. And when I've loved those coaches and when I've really, really felt empowered by those coaches, I could tell that they were 100% on my side, into me. And when I've started to buckle against those coaches, it's when I could tell they were calculating their questions to try to get me to move in a particular direction, which they thought was good for me. They believed it was good for me, but they wanted me to get something, to understand something, or they wanted me to get to a certain outcome, which was success in their mind. But I started barreling against it because that was about them, not me. And they teach you this in coaching school, but it takes a while to sort of get it.
In my own experience also, when you have an agenda, you are not present with that person. You might not hear what they say, and you worry about what to say next.
So even the first 10 years of coaching, I would still go into a coaching conversation wanting to be a good coach, wanting to do a good job for you, wanting you as my client to like me and to get value out of the experience. And all those wants that I had become an agenda. But I couldn't get, even though people told me, I couldn't really get what it felt like to be in a conversation with you where I had no agenda.
Right.
But in my own personal growth, and this involved working on my own needs, getting my own needs met outside of my clients, really working on my own personal growth, I got to the point where I now could go into a coaching conversation and not have any agenda. And my coaching got better and better and better and more and more powerful.
Yeah.
So now I had that model in my coaching practice, and I wasn't going to change who I was in my sales practice.
I mean, it's about partnership too, right? I mean, coaching is about partnership. You are in that conversation, you are forming a partnership, collaborating with them so they can have an experience about what it would look like to work with you when you do actually start your coaching relationship.
Yeah, and I think that's a really great way to describe it. It's a collaboration, it's a partnership. So even when you're doing the journey of they're thinking that they might want to hire a coach, how can you partner with them in a collaborative way to help understand what really matters to them when it comes to hiring a coach, what they really want from a coach, what they feel like they can invest in a coach, what they feel like they will get out of that, and what they need from the coach, you know, emotionally, and to really partner with them and collaborate with them on that decision in a supportive way where they feel no pressure at all to choose you over somebody else. I think that's a really powerful gift that you can give somebody. And if I go into a relationship like that, giving them that gift as part of my sales process, then part of my sales process just becomes a seamless part of my relationship building process overall. And it doesn't become kind of a sales technique.
So it sounds like it's all about relationships, building relationship in this sales process, enrollment process, rather.
Yeah, I think for me, it has been, I mean, if I look back over the years, and I usually at the end of every year say, okay, who were the clients that I had this year and where did they come from? A vast majority of our past clients coming back. So, I mean, it just takes time to build a client base. So most of my clients are that, but the other part of my clients, they're all referrals from those people. And, you know, people will say that. And in the beginning, I did a lot of speaking. So I got new clients that way. I'd still get some new clients who, you know, stumble upon a YouTube video or look at my website, but most of them are referrals from clients who have worked with me and have sort of done my selling for me, I would imagine.
Which is great. This is what you want.
Yeah.
I think what you're saying also is to build the trust in the relationship, is the trust.
Yes, I agree. I think building trust is everything. And I also think it's entering into relationships in a way that honors your values. And just that. So for me, what I'm realizing as I go back and I look, for me, the one key is just continuing to nurture my network. So I also actually call it nurturing my network. And that's probably my most impactful sales activity, is to just stay in touch with people that are interesting to me, who I've met at networking events or whatever, and stay in touch with them. I have people that I met years ago at networking events, and I was interested in them and I liked them, and they weren't interested in hiring me as a coach at all, no matter how much I wanted to coach them. But I was still very interested in who they were, and I just kept in touch with them over the years. And then suddenly they'll call me up and say, okay, I want to hire you. But what led to that is not a sales process. What led to that was a relationship, and as you say, trust building process, and just being interested in staying in touch.
That brings me to the last question I'm interested in hearing more about, is when you talk about working on yourself, right? It's pretty much about how do you take care of your own needs, so you don't show up too needy.
I've always been fascinated with psychology. That's what brought me to coaching. But I did go to coaching school at Coach U, and one of the things that they do in the Coach U program is there's 3 parts to it. One is coaching skills, one is business development, and one is personal foundation. And in the personal foundation course, which of course was my favorite because that was the one about personal growth and psychology, they had a needless program where they talked about needs. And that really resonated with me, and it connected to what I learned in my first psychology class about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I began to realize that needs are the source of your motivation. And because I think, like all coaches, I'm interested in what holds people back, and I built models. And unmet needs is one of the core things that holds people back, and belief systems that say that you can't get your needs met. So for example, if I'm a new coach and I have this part of me underlying that, let's say people call it imposter syndrome, but I just don't think, like, who am I to be a coach, right? I sort of need to prove myself, and I'm going to be in that catch-22 where I'm going to be coming across as needy and manipulative because I don't have a sense of self-worth. So how do you work on that, right? You have kind of a short-term solution and a long-term solution. The short-term solution is you're just going to have to get in a very confident space and disconnect yourself, detach yourself from the outcome. So really try, when you're talking to potential clients, to not let that neediness out and not make that about you at all. And that's just going to require some willpower. But then long-term, you really want to work on that. And often it's a deep sense of lack of self-worth, or not feeling like you're good enough unless you can prove yourself through your profession or something like that. And that takes some deep self-discovery. But that's my favorite type of work. And honestly, that's the work that I do with all my clients, even my leaders, the ones that are open to it. So we sort of work on practical tools, but then we work on the self-discovery journey. And when I work with other coaches, it's the same thing. It's sure, you can work on coaching skills with anybody. And you can work on business development with anybody, but where you're going to get your most mileage is when you work on that deep personal growth. And that's what I work on, because that's what turns you into the confident person that has the courage to lean into things and has the courage to be rejected over and over and over again, has the courage to be yourself, to be authentic, and to be embarrassed, to try new things out and fail. Everyone says that you should be able to do that, but it's your emotions overrun you. The embarrassment and the awkwardness makes it impossible to even make it worth the time to do unless you've done that inner work so that you actually can go into it with some degree of confidence.
Yeah, that's so important to work on yourself, because when you work on yourself, you'll be able to in tune with your clients more. You can use that skills that you use on yourself with clients too. I think that's. Do you have a last word of advice for coaches who have been feeling like they've been rejected again and again? And
I would say to really take a deep look at why you're building your coaching business. And if you're doing it because you desperately need something. So if you're doing it because you desperately need money, or you desperately need to prove something, or you desperately need to feel like you have value in the world, all those desperate feelings, all the things that your business means to you that cause you to personally identify with your business, those are the things that are going to shoot you in the foot. Everything, your business has to be separate from who you are. So if you need money, it's going to be really, really hard for you to go into situations where people, whether they say yes or no to you, is going to make or break your life without being somewhat manipulative. So it's going to be a process. And sometimes you're going to have to say, well, I'm not going to be perfect. I'm going to be a little bit needy in this conversation because I do need it. Now, the good thing I can tell you is that I was not this confident when I started my coaching business at all. And I was needy for like the first half of my coaching business, and people hired me anyway. So you just have to keep trying. But as a long-term investment in yourself, I would say if you really want to do this work and you really want to do it well, your journey is important, because if you're not working on yourself, then you're going to be imposing all your needs on your clients. You're not really serving your clients if you're serving yourself through your clients. I think doing the personal growth work really helps. I like to do parallel paths. So you're doing your personal growth work, which kind of helps you long term, and then you just use whatever short-term sales techniques that you feel like you can do with some degree of authenticity is a good way to start.